Yes, it is true. The Black Ace Hockey Podcast is back in action. My name is Ben Abs. I'm radio as always with your co-host Nick Jenkins. What is up, man?
What's happening, man? What's going on? We had Thanksgiving last week, so a little holiday hiatus, and
Yep.
we're a couple weeks away from Christmas too, so I'm sure we'll take a week off for that around the holidays. But hope everybody had a good Thanksgiving with family and friends or whatever you had done, and we're into that mid-season portion of the hockey season where now it's like, what's that? There's like some stat where it's like basically if you're in a playoff spot now, you have like a really good chance of staying in a playoff spot. So
Right. I hope that
every game
works
counts.
for the Pens, because we're in that wild card Blaston Metro kind of space.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens. But yeah, man, about 4 inches of snow in Pittsburgh. We're into Christmas season, so obviously the Christmas tree's in the background here. So no Christmas over there for Jenks' room. Just a standard operation, white and navy blue.
I'll class it up for next one.
We'll hold you to it. So, happy Thanksgiving to everybody out there that celebrates. It's a fun time, good food, and hopefully everybody did not burn down their house with a fried turkey this year. So that's very fun. Kind of rolling right into some of the topics that we have for the podcast. I know it's been some 2 weeks here, and some fan favorite topics have come about in the NHL world, and we're gonna kick off with kind of what you mentioned. We're into the meat and potatoes of the season, right? The games that actually matter towards the end of the season start pretty much now, and go to All-Star break, and wherever you land, you better be kicking after that All-Star break. So Nashville, not kicking, not even bucking, not even doing anything, not even on the dance floor. They're not even in America's Got Talent audition realm. But you know who's on their number one dance card list, Jenks?
Hit him with it.
Gavin McKenna. I just think they're gonna tank for him the rest of the season. They might pull everybody.
They have nothing to lose. I mean, I can't believe I'm still having a hard time looking at that roster and saying they are the last place team in the NHL. I mean, the 2024-25 season when they signed Marchessault and they signed Steven Stamkos, and you're looking at this team on paper and you're like, oh, this is a playoff, like this could be a contender. And then they finished well outside the playoffs last year. And it's like, bad season, things happen. Okay, let's regroup and put our best effort this year. And oh my God, they're at the Thanksgiving break, they are last place in the NHL. So now you flip the script and you're like, okay, do we tear it down? Do we trade guys away? We're not making playoffs. There's no chance this team makes playoffs. Do we trade some rentals away, get some picks? Or are we looking at is McKenna a realistic possibility to go to Nashville? Like, I don't think that was on anybody's bingo card before this season.
Yeah, we'll have to stay tuned for that exciting lottery pool. Hopefully the Pens, maybe they trade around some picks. Maybe Kyle Dubas works his magic. I'd love to have another stud in Pittsburgh, but it doesn't seem to happen because Sidney Crosby refuses to lose. But yeah, I mean, I feel like I look through this roster and it's good. Maybe 10 years ago, like 10 years ago, this roster is nasty. Philip Forsberg, Steven Stammer, Ryan O'Reilly, who did I just see? Marchessault. Like, these guys, yes, they're not terribly old. I mean, Stamkos is. He's getting up there. But, I mean, I would say, like, half of them, they do what the Pens do. They lose, and then they just bring back Jeff Carter. Like, brother, he's, like, 93, I think. So, like, at what point do you say, hey, this is a rebuilding year? Like, let's not go out and get people with contracts that are ridiculous amount of money. Maybe we bring in somebody like Nick Foligno in Chicago to maybe train up our new young stud. Looking through the roster, I don't see too many standout young studs either. We have Michael Bunting that kind of has found himself being bounced around the league. It's kind of taken on that enforcer type role, but I mean, you see, what is it? Do you see Soros from Finland, the Great White North, that the sun never sets up there? I I don't know where he fits in the long term kind of vision for the Predators either. He was the replacement for Penne. What the
Rene.
fuck was his name? Pecorina. I was merging his
Yeah.
first and last name, but uh, yeah, he was the answer there. But when you have the uh, first spot locked up and you don't really have a challenge for that second spot, kind of like the whole Jari situation in Pittsburgh, you find yourself
Hmm.
kind of on the downslope. Like when you have somebody you can beat in net, or when somebody's constantly beating you in net, you strive to be better, which is I think what we're seeing in Nashville
Yeah,
right now.
I think so too. It's that looking at it and where they are now versus where they thought they were going to be at this point, you know it's
Yeah.
disappointing for the organization. I'm sure. It makes that Saros is interesting that you brought up because he's still one of the better goalies in the NHL. Um, and they decided to move on from Askarov, and they traded him to the Sharks, who was supposed to be their next goalie to take over. So, now with the position they're in, they're probably scratching their heads a little bit, saying, "Boy, we wish we would have hung on to him and started the youth movement here." But
Yeah.
yeah, it sort of looks like they might be trending into rebuild mode here. So we'll see what happens with them for the rest of the season.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting as we move on. You look at somebody like UC Saros, you look at somebody like Tristan Jari, and the love hate between the organizations and their goaltenders and the fans. It seems to be more frustration driving some of these trade rumors and some of these talks around the league as Edmonton looks to you know find a way to fix the net. And we look at somebody like Tristan Jari, who's come up in a lot of the trade rumors that Pens don't know what to do with him. Like, is he good? Maybe. Is he not good? Maybe. Like, I don't know what Jari you're gonna get. I've been looking through a lot of Reddit streams. Black Pad Jari. People were saying Kyle Dubas making him switch out of the black pads to the white pads. I think Dubas came in and said all goalies are required to wear white based pads for his tenure there, which makes sense, right? Like you're trying to hide your pads on the ice as best as possible. So, um, what do you think about this? The whole trade room, and do you think UC Saros gets tossed in the mix with Nashville being in last place and maybe making a big shakeup?
They might. I mean, we what we know at this point is that Edmonton has been without a goalie that they feel good about for just about as long as time. Um, McDavid is probably fine. Like, hey, look, I'm scoring 150 points a year. Can you just find somebody to let in less than 5 goals a game? That would be great.
Right.
So, like, Skinner's had some really good moments, but again, they're in the media saying, we got to find our guy, and maybe Saros uh, is a good compromise there. I mean, I saw a news article that connected Edmonton to Jari, who you just named as well. Um, so it shouldn't come as a surprise to anybody that Edmonton is shopping. I'm sure that it would make sense for Edmonton to go in on a guy like Saros, who's been pretty good over his career and fits the win now mentality, and it would make sense for Nashville to maybe try to move on from him if they're looking to start the rebuild now and get something while he's still valuable. So
Right.
yeah, I think he's a name that makes sense. I think Jari might be a name that makes sense. I think there's probably a couple other guys that uh, are in the rumors right now that Edmonton's probably taking a look at, and we'll just have to see where that goes.
Yeah, it's interesting because I think everybody in the hockey world knows that Connor McDavid desperately needs some sort of help. They signed up Leon Draisaitl to that long extension, and I think McDavid's in a spot where, like, hey, we fix it my way or the highway. And maybe McDavid went into the negotiations and say, hey, we need a goalie. Anybody that's named Stewart is not a goalie. He's a salesman for vests. I don't know the right way to go about this, but I wouldn't mind getting rid of Jari. I think the Pens tested. Who do we have in as our backup? Karos, whatever his name is.
Not even close. It's we. The backup is Shilovs.
Shilovs.
And we've got that Russian kid who they called up, Murashov.
Right. And we have Bloomquist.
And yes, we have some pretty good young goalies right now.
So I think, if Shilovs or whatever the fuck moves
Sakharov
to the starter position, and we bring back up our Russian hope, Murashev, I think we're not that bad as far as goalie, or the same as in our goaltending matchups. So I wouldn't mind that. Bloomquist, he's pretty good. He's been up and down. I don't think he's a starter yet, so hopefully he develops well. But yeah, out of the two, or maybe if you know of a third goaltender that's trying to get a fresh start, who do you see most likely going to Edmonton?
Well, I think, I haven't seen. I've seen some stuff in the news saying that they've shown interest in Jari, and Jari, based on recent performances in the last couple of years, he's probably going to be the cheaper guy between Saros and Jari. So if they're just looking to take another shot at somebody, Jari's going to be a cheaper gamble. Right. But Saros, I think, is the better goaltender. He's had a much more consistent career. He's been with Nashville and saw a lot of success in Nashville, so I feel like he's probably their best bet. I think of some other teams that look like they've got a lot of goaltenders. Carolina has Freddie Anderson, and they've got that Kochetkov kid, and then this Brandon Bussey. I don't know how you say his name, but
okay.
He's played some games recently, and I think he was a high pick. So if you look at that room and say, maybe we take a shot on Anderson, who, when he's healthy, he's really good, but he's got injury problems, or Kochetkov or something like that. Try to pick out a goalie room that it's just crowded and they just got to move on from somebody. So. Yeah. There's options out there. It'll be interesting to see if they decide to make a move and who they get.
Yeah, and we're just on a trend of goaltending, and the team that's not in a bad spot for goaltending is the Minnesota Wild. It just seems like everything's happening for them. They signed Kaprizov, Ketchup, whatever his name is. They have this rookie goaltender. He's been up and down, so I don't know if you classify him as a complete rookie, but his rookie season in the NHL, playing more than I think 8 games. Jesper, all right, let's see. Wallstedt is the last T silent.
It's probably just Wallstedt.
Wallstedt, okay. This guy's been unreal for them. 6-0 in his last 6 starts. I mean, his save percentage is above 900. This guy, if he could continue this, Jenks, would you put him into the Rookie of the Year category?
He's been, so since he got his last call up and in his last stretch, he's been one of the hottest, if not the hottest goalie in the NHL right now. I sort of remember the draft that he got taken, and he got taken pretty high. I think it was, 15th overall or something. It was high for a 20th overall. And I remember at the time, they're like, what are they doing? That just seems like a reach. And, it's one of those things where if you feel strongly, you just got to make the pick because somebody else is going to get him. Goalies develop slowly and they take time. You got to get them warmed up. Um, we've seen cases where you rush a goalie into the NHL and they sort of sputter out. And it can ruin their development. So I think they
Yep.
did it right. And it just looks like all signs are indicating that they handled his development right, and he might be ready to be a regular with that team. Um, yeah, he's certainly up there with the some of the best young players in the NHL right now. So if he stays up and he keeps performing this way, I think he's in that conversation.
Yeah, the guy's unreal. I caught a glimpse of the last couple games on some highlights, and he just moves well. He looks like a purebred goaltender. He's not like a Flurry where you like catch him behind the net 95 times every game or flopping around the ice and somehow saves the puck. So it's got to be nice to have that sort of brick wall back there, kind of like a Carey Price, just always in the right position. It might squeak by him if you have a Crosby in front of him, but he saves the majority of the pucks, which is pretty nice to have. And I think he comes at oh no, he's 23 years old. I was gonna say he comes at a good time for the World Junior roster, but he's 23. He's
Yeah.
ancient in World Junior land. But moving on to our World Junior rosters, most of the teams have at least hammered down a select group for the rosters, if not the main roster. I know there's I think 26 or 24 names on the rosters released now, and some of it will be cuts or practice players or standby in case our guy gets his head blown off in the uh, in the World Juniors Championship. So I wanted to hear from your resident college hockey expert and just regional scouts of junior hockey around the world. I want to hear from you. Is there anybody from the USA roster that sticks out as like, wow, did he make this team?
Yeah, I have to think. So a lot of star power on this USA roster. I mean, you look down the list and they're returning a number of good guys from last year, like names that anybody would recognize. James Higgins, who at one point was thought to be the first overall pick last season. A couple of guys who are just having amazing seasons in college this year. Will Horkoff, who we'll talk about some more in a little bit, I'm sure. Cole Hudson, Lane Hudson's brother. I mean, these are guys that nobody should be surprised that are on this roster.
Yeah.
One interesting name that I saw, and I'm curious if he'll stick on the team. He's having a good season in college. I think this is his first year with Minnesota in college. Um, LJ Mooney. He's a Pittsburgh boy.
Mm-hmm.
Grew up playing Penn's Elite. He's not the biggest kid in the world. I think his comp is probably something like a Cole Caulfield type.
Clayton Keller, yeah.
Clayton Keller, yeah, small, shifty, quick, plays really good with the puck. Um, and he's somebody who I think there was a lot of hype around him coming into the draft last year, and he fell a little bit. Ended up being a mid-round pick. Um, but if he makes this team, he might be one to keep an eye on as somebody who's a potential having a breakout in this tournament. The interesting thing is it's a new goalie room. All of these goalies it's their first time on this team, so they're not going to have the luxury of returning like a Trey Augustine or somebody
All right.
who we talked about in the previous pod, who is just dominating the NCAA right now.
All
So
right.
uh, the other thing that I'm keeping an eye on is which goalie they're going to turn to as their starter. It probably depends on who's gonna come into camp looking the best, because they do a brief camp before they go to the tournament. So those are the two things that I've got my eye on. Look for LJ Mooney if he makes the team to have a big breakout, and let's find out who becomes the starter for the USA. What do you think about this roster?
I'm glad you mentioned goalies because I feel like the USA's downfall within the last couple of years. We have enough talent on the forward room and the D room. I think it kind of relies on their goaltending here. And I'm looking. I'm not the best in depth guy for going through all the stats and knowing where everybody plays, but there's a USHL goaltender that made this roster. Now, I'll never make the USHL. I've never played in NCAA. But I'm just saying, with the amount of possible talent on the Canadian side, which I feel like just makes up half of Penn State's roster, I just think that can't be our go-to guy. He might be a third goalie, which is fine with me. But I'm just saying, and the other guy plays in the WHL. I mean, if we're going based off rank, I think the number one goalie here is the Notre Dame goalie. To
Yeah.
be fair, that's a kid playing against men, right? As a 19, 20-year-old. Now, I wouldn't mind seeing, like you said, who comes in hot, who wants it more. As Herb Brooks is like, I'm not looking for the best players, I'm looking for the right ones, right? Like, who's going to be the guy that comes into the locker room, is the glue guy. He's not like, I'm better than you, I'm better than this kid. We're here to have fun. Let's have some fun. Let's show our best efforts out there, and screw it, we might mess around and win this thing. LJ Mooney, great guy from PA. I don't think I reffed him when he was here, but I certainly was close to getting to ref him. Will Horkoff, Pens are just loaded on the freaking prospect pool. Dubas came in, was like, I'm getting the best players. I don't give a crap what our scouts say. I'm scouting today. So Cole Eiserman should be a good pickup for Team USA as well. He's a returning player. So yeah, I mean, I think our team looks good on paper. Studs, Rockets. We'll see if they can figure it out on the Canadian side of town. But we have to get by Sweden. We still have to win those games. We have to get by Germany, Czechoslovakia. It's not Czechoslovakia anymore. It's fucking Slovakia and Czech Republic, right?
Yes, they're
Stupid.
Yeah. Yes, it hasn't been Czechoslovakia in quite a long time now.
I still think it is. It's why? Like, why make it difficult, Jenks? Imagine that imaginary line get split between your house.
Yeah.
What do you do then?
Do you get to pick your country?
Yeah.
You're like, yeah, my property. I want to be Czech, so I'm going to go side with that country.
Like, what's it matter? Okay, whatever. But do you have anything to say about the Canadian side of town, or are you just focused on the one and only USA?
So if you found a Canada roster, I haven't seen the preliminary Canada roster yet. I did some Googling and I couldn't find the list. I saw the women's roster. I did not see a men's roster.
Yeah, they probably don't have it set up. Not even elite prospects have it.
Yeah, I guess they haven't announced yet. But I'm really curious who we're going to see on that team, because I've seen like the mocks of it, and it's like there are guys who have played NHL games this year who are going to be on that roster. That's kind of scary. And after the fumble that they had last year with putting together the team, they gotta
hit it. Do you think they pull out Schaefer?
No.
No?
So Schaefer's already played too many NHL games. We're talking about guys who are still under that. What is it? There's like some arbitrary 20-game cap or whatever. But it's guys like Zane Parekh, who was in the OHL last year, and he's got a dozen games played with Calgary this year. I think I saw. I'm trying to remember.
Braden Yeager?
Well, I think he's aged out of it. Yeah.
Aged out, man.
There was another name that I was shocked, and I can't remember what it was. There was another big name who's played like 10 NHL games this year who they said that he got permission to go from his NHL club. He's still with the club. So that team could be really scary this year, depending on what it ends up looking like.
Yeah, but half the time Canada comes out like last year and just tries to actually be big, scary men, and then they get into fights and they board people from behind and get kicked out and things like that. So I think if Canada plays their game, actually, they might be good. But
Hmm.
they try to like play this arbitrary like tough guy role, and they're not tough. USA's tough. That's how we're born and bred. But that's just it's just not Canada's game. If they want a piece of the demon, they gotta fucking act right. This they can't come and be wilding it out. But we'll see what happens as we'll be following along. When is the World Juniors?
It's not till like the Christmas break.
So we have a
It'll
couple
start.
weeks though. It's weird
Oh,
that they didn't
yeah.
announce the roster.
Yeah, they. You would think by now we'd have at least that preliminary roster
Right.
that like the USA has put out. I don't know when the hard date is. Like there is a specific date that you have to uh, release it by.
Yeah.
So I don't know what that date is, but it's got to be soon.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll keep everybody posted with that. I'm sure we'll have some sweet highlight reels from those games. And jumping back into some more NHL stuff, more like topics related to the NHL. Um, I wanted to hear your thoughts. We're into the meat and potatoes of the season, and uh, two or three players that we pointed out needed to step up, needed to take that 1-2 steps for their organization. And it seems like that's starting to happen as we see the Sharks move into a playoff spot.
Yeah.
We've never seen that since what? Freaking 2017, right? When Joe Thornton and Eric Carlson were on that team. Brett Burns. Oh, you remember that. People like that. Now Macklin Celebrini is bringing the team back. Connor Bedard putting the Chicago brand back in line with maybe the dynasty area. He's
Yeah.
looking scary
Yeah.
good now. So I want to hear your thoughts on who's having the best third of the NHL start to their season.
The third best start to the season.
The third of the season is done, right? Technically, a third of the season because we're past 20 games, so it
Okay,
can't be a quarter. So a third.
so you're not okay. So you're not asking. You're not saying like Celebrini's one and Bedard's
Right.
two. You're saying
Right.
just who do I think is having the best?
Yes.
We'll call it
Yes.
a breakout at this point.
Yeah.
Um, and both of those names have to be up there. We talked about them a little bit. That they're like second and third, I think, at this point in NHL scoring.
Yeah.
Um, Certainly, we've been waiting for this with Bedard. I don't think anybody expected Celebrini to be in that conversation this early in his career, but he is such a dynamic player, and he's driving the success of that Sharks team. I think you could almost put him in the MVP conversation at this point because he is the reason the Sharks are in a playoff spot
Yeah.
right now. And Chicago's having a great season too. I think another shocker for everybody is how Matthew Schaefer, who we asked about related to World Juniors, has just jumped into the NHL and doesn't look a beat out of place. Is the number one defenseman in New York already, and he's generating points. I think he's up there in rookie scoring. He's second rookie scoring as a defenseman. He's already getting power play time, out there playing big important minutes. It's really exciting if you're an Islanders fan that you got this guy who he seems like a good kid too. That might be the biggest shock because everybody was expecting Celebrini and Bedard to take a step. So I might say he's probably the biggest surprise in having the best first third of the season, or most unexpected first third of the season.
Yeah. That's interesting because like I feel like I'm the opposite where Bedard seems to be having the more like shocker of a step because like I think Celebrini has Will Smith with them, right? Like and they got Askarov for a goaltender, and I think the Sharks have positioned themselves in a position where they have all these young talent, the high end talent. They're just kind of waiting for a time bomb to go off, and it finally has. And they have Celebrini, Smith, and kind of Eklund rolling on all cylinders. They have all
Yeah.
these young talents, and in net as well as Nedeljkovic. I don't know why he couldn't play good with Pittsburgh. I don't know. Like they have Askarov. We mentioned him already. I just I feel like San Jose is like set up for Celebrini to be good, where Chicago, I think they kind of wanted to tank again for Gavin McKenna. Bedard is just like across me. He's like, no, I don't want to keep losing. Losing sucks. All right. And case in point, as he absolutely freaking put Connor Hart's pants in the corner on that shootout move. Oh my good god, that was disgusting. But yeah, I just think Connor Bedard is up there. Battle between the number one picks, right? Schaefer is
Yeah.
Buffalo's first round overall D man that they always wanted, but didn't get. Right? They drafted what Darlene and Owen Power. That basically is a useless piece of rock out there. Might as well put him as a paperweight, holding down the ice. I think these stars come into the NHL, and maybe Schaefer didn't have that much pressure on him because I feel like everybody's like Islanders suck. They play defensive forward game, and Schaefer's not very defensive defenseman. He's more of an offensive defenseman, right? Just kind of his skating style and play. But I think he is a shocker for as far as a rookie. But again, it's all about steps with me. You can have a good first year, Crosby. You can have a great 110-point year. What are you going to do next year? What are you going to do the year after that? You can't have one year and be like, I'm going to shut down. I'm going to turn off the engines. I'm going to go park it for an oil change maybe in 6 years. I want to see that fourth year. That's when shit hits the pavement. It's when you're getting broken bones, concussions, all the mix. People aren't protecting you anymore. You're a veteran. Well, not a veteran. You're starting to become well recognized within the league. Um, Let me ask you this then: if Celebrini and Bedard are 1-2, who's that third guy that you're like, dang, this young kid's having a good season? Because I like to focus on like the transition of power, right? Like we have the Crosby, McDavid, McKinnon, Kucherov, Hedman, McAvoy. We have all these guys that are like kind of getting over the hill as far as NHL retirement. Quinn Hughes, Jack Hughes, like all these guys that are kind of um, been there, done that. Who's the new brand coming in? So I want to hear your number three.
So if you want to know who I think is that third guy who's finally coming into his own, um, you don't have to look far down the points list. It's Leo Carlson in Anaheim. That guy, I think there were high expectations for him when he got drafted, and Anaheim was very careful about how they integrated him into the NHL. And I think he dealt with some injury stuff last year and sort of missed a big chunk of the season. But he is fourth in points in the NHL right now, and just looks completely dynamic when he's on the ice.
Yeah.
He's making things happen.
He's big
Um,
too.
he's a big
Big.
boy. He's
Yeah.
a big kid. So I think if you take out Celebrini and Bedard from the equation, the next guy who I think um, is finally taking that step and becoming the stud for their team, I think it's Carlson in Anaheim.
Do you think McTavish is having a so-so NHL career? Like I feel
It's
like he
tough.
came in so high, right? Like after the World Juniors, like he
Yeah.
came in just being like, "Oh my god, like this guy's awesome." And I just feel like he hasn't touched any sort of like what the hype was for him yet. I mean, I'm not calling him trash. I'm just saying, when do you think is the right time for him to be like, prove it or lose it, kid? Like, what are we doing?
Yeah, I mean, I think statistically, he's not where they had hoped he would be. I think they would hope he'd be on the score sheet more often, but got to remember too, like he's already one of the assistant captains of the team.
Yeah.
They've put him in a leadership role. It could be a big reason that Carlson is able to have success because I think he's playing a lot of big minutes. I think McTavish has played a lot of big minutes, probably against some other top lines as the number one center, which gives Carlson some room to do some damage. So I don't think he's hit his stride yet. I think he shows flashes of that player that they want him to be.
Okay.
He's still young. I want to make sure
Yeah.
that he gets full credit for what he's doing, and I think he's going to continue to improve. But at the same time, like even if he ends up being a solid number two center and Leo Carlson ends up being as good as it looks like he's going to be, I think they still win this at the end of the day.
Oh yeah, 100%. I think Anaheim probably has the nastiest roster for young talent across the board. They just drafted so well and just were, like Joel Embiid says, trust the process. And Anaheim did it. They have Troy Terry that developed well. They have McTavish. They had Zegras, but Zegras was too much of a freaking liability. Gauthier, just all these kids that they traded for Kreider and Truba, which everybody laughed at the time, even me. Kreider is a penalty kill specialist. That guy could do 1v5 and still find a way to score a goal. It's incredible the work he does on the PK. But yeah, I'm kind of looking forward to this team being a representative maybe in the West that nobody thought about, right? Because they
Yeah.
sucked so much last year. Maybe they figured who's their goaltenders. It's not
Uh,
Jason
no,
uh,
they're number one right now. Well, he's injured, but it's
Mazurek
that
and Dostal.
yeah. Dostal is their number one, but he's currently injured.
Right.
Um, I think that was one of the reasons why Anaheim felt okay with moving on from John Gibson, is because Dostal was sort of taking on a bigger share of the games, and he looked really good doing it.
Yeah.
And he's been pretty good for them this year. I think he's going to miss the next couple of weeks, but I think they'll want him back. I don't really know much about the other goaltenders in the room there, so
I thought
can't speak
Mrazek
about that.
retired after the Red Wings absolutely destroyed his career, being the worst in the NHL. I thought he fell off the earth.
I was shocked when I saw Mrazek was a Duck. I was like, oh, really? He's still okay. All right.
Right. I'm like, oh my god, he's like after Detroit just ended him, he bounced around for a bit, but glad to see him on a winning team. Maybe he fits into that Ryan Miller role, just kind of there to, or like Jake Allen in the Blues, just kind of there
Yeah.
to keep the goalie sane,
Yeah.
and kind of back up when needed. So, I like them in the West as a up and coming team, being number one in the Pacific Division. What's another team that you'd like to highlight out of the West?
All out of the West. So I don't want to. I think the other obvious team is the Sharks, but we've already touched on that, so I don't want to double down on the Sharks here.
Okay,
I
then
did
flip to
not
the East. Flip to the East.
flip to the East. Okay.
Yeah.
Uh, well, it's the No, it's the not the Penguins. The Penguins are pulling a rabbit out of a hat right
Yeah, somehow.
now. I hate to say it, but the Flyers have a lot of young, good players now. Zegras looks like a completely different player in Philly than he did in Anaheim. I think he's scoring at like a point per game pace. They've got a lot of other young players in that organization now, including Mitchkov, who is a very highly rated prospect and looks to be good for them. They went out and got players like Drysdale and Owen Tippett, who have been effective for them. And then they've got, I think their weak point might still be goaltending, but they're currently in a wild card spot. But if you look at that team, they're starting to flip the roster from the last regime, including like Giroux and Couturier and Voracek and all those guys that you might remember from their last playoff runs to this new guard of these young talented players. So if these guys keep developing at the rate they are, and Zegras can continue to be that player that they hoped he could be when they traded for him, it looks like Philly might have some staying power in the future.
Yep. I agree. I thought it was funny when Zegers tried to, get one of our defensemen that fights for a living to flinch. So, I mean, not the right guy to do that. Maybe do that on Vesteri Kukanainen or whatever frick his name is. So that's just definitely not the right person to do it on. But it's at least a funny clip to see. So yeah, I hate to say the Flyers are good, but the Flyers are good, and it's between uh, them, us, and New Jersey for that final Eastern. I think Washington might hang on to at least one of those three spots, but they have to have a heck of a back half of the season.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens there.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Jake. That's it for the NHL news. Any last words for the NHL as we move into the college hockey realm?
No, it's just, I mean, we talked a lot about the up and coming teams right now, right? It's really interesting if you are following the standings and following the NHL this year. It's like the changing of the guard. These teams who you used to see on the schedule, like Anaheim and Chicago over the last few years, and you're like, we could just pencil in a win
Dust
right
them.
now.
Yeah.
And the teams who used to be or have been juggernauts for the last 10 or 20 years, like, the Capitals and the Penguins, the Predators, like these teams are sort of trending the wrong direction. So
Yeah.
it just shows you the cycle of these organizations. You get good players, you get really good, you go all in, you win cups, and then at some point you got to come back to reality and rebuild, and then the cycle starts all over. So
Yeah.
we're seeing that right now with a big shift on a lot of teams. So it's kind of fun to watch. It hurts as a Pens fan, but it's cool to see the next generation coming up in the league.
Yeah. More things change, the more things stay the same. Just like the
Yep.
Buffalo Sabres at the bottom of the leaderboard. That will never change. It will. They will need to have some sort of catastrophic thing happen to the NHL for them to ever be good. I'm just. You heard it here first. It's gonna be 40 years before they're even good. I'm gonna be dead, and they're still not gonna be good.
In our lifetime, we'll never see a Buffalo
Never.
Sabres playoff game again.
Yeah, I'm willing to bet that. That's an easy bet.
Bet
I'll
that
take
responsibly, folks.
Yeah, that's my writing on the wall pick. Jumping into college hockey, what is new in the world of college hockey, Jenks?
Well, what's not new, and stop me if you've heard this before, but Michigan is a juggernaut. That team,
as they should be.
That team is absolutely loaded. They're getting 90% of the first place votes, and I don't see anybody knocking them off for the rest of the year. We're only about halfway through the season, but they're the betting favorite to win it all right now, so that's not a surprise. Two teams that I want to highlight that are a little bit of a surprise for me. Wisconsin has jumped to number 2. You look at the Wisconsin roster, and there's a couple of names that you recognize, but coming into the season, it's not like they were loaded with all these guys, and you've got them earmarked as a potential threat, even in the Big Ten, not only to win it all.
Right.
But they're playing really good hockey right now. Strung together some wins with 2 wins against Michigan State just before the holiday, and Michigan State's another team who is favored to win it all this year. So they're playing good right now. So they deserve that spot. The other one I want to highlight is really unexpected. Dartmouth. They've only played 8 games so far, but they haven't lost yet.
What have they been doing?
8-0-0. I don't know. Apparently just
chilling,
nice and
just
easy
hanging
start
out
to the season.
Yeah.
Haven't lost yet. Undefeated. They've jumped up to number 8 in the rankings. And you look at who they've played. They beat Cornell, who's the only other ranked team that they've played so far, but they're scoring a lot of goals. 6-1 win, 6-1 win, 7-2, 6-0. So
got a cupcake schedule.
I'm a little skeptical that this has any staying power.
Right.
but they're playing really good hockey right now. I think they're due to play some real teams coming up at some point. I'm trying to pull up their schedule real quick. I thought I saw, they've got Arizona State coming up. They've got Quinnipiac coming up, who's number 8. They got Cornell again. So they've got some challenges ahead. That's where the tests will be, and we'll see if this team's for real. But a good start to the season for them. So just wanted to highlight that.
I wonder if in college hockey land, it's more beneficial to like schedule lower end good teams as like out of conference games and then focus more on conference, because like you can win your conference and still go to like the championship, right?
Yeah.
So like why not dedicate all your manpower? That way in recruiting, you can be like, hey, we won last year. Want to be a part of this year's run. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
You think that's like a strategy for like a team like Dartmouth where they're not playing these high-end teams?
Well, so they have the benefit of being in a weak conference. That helps for sure. I think the problem with being in a weak conference is if you don't win the conference and you play a bunch of cupcake games, you're not going to get those at-large bids to go to the tournament. Right. So you've got to find a balance to say, hey, these out-of-conference games, we want to schedule a couple real teams so that we've got a good strength of schedule, so that if we don't win the conference, we've got another shot at getting that large bid. So right. You got to find a balance of teams that you feel like you can beat and teams that you feel like are going to be a challenge.
Yeah. Because I've seen some ESPN articles that some college football teams are doing, like Alabama. If they're not strong enough the current year and they're playing, say, a decently strong out-of-conference game, they're just going to move that game to 17 years in the future. I think Alabama moved their game against UCF to 2032. Like, right now we're not playing you because we want an undefeated record going into like the college playoff or football playoff thing. Yeah. So I'm interested to see, because in the NIL world, like this could possibly have an effect on people scheduling better games. So,
yep, absolutely. The other thing to highlight is, and it's one of the reasons why Michigan is having so much success this year, the top 3 scorers, all tied with 26 points, are all from Michigan. Will Horkoff, TJ Hughes, Michael Haig. 26 points apiece. Top of the leaderboards and statistics this year so far through the first half of the season. Will Horkoff has 18 goals in 18 games.
We need another Crosby. Why not him?
We love this kid. Scoring on 30% of his shots right now.
Okay.
Big fan. He's a giant. He is going to be such a good power forward. He's 6'5". So the future in Pittsburgh may be bright all of a sudden after a good draft last year. So, Michigan just continuing to dominate all over the place, and I don't think there's a good Hobie Baker poll at this point, a good sense of where we're going to be at. But I wouldn't be surprised if we finish with our boy Horkoff from the Penguin side in the conversation for Hobie Baker when they start taking some votes. So,
and then maybe we make a deep playoff run, and then be like, hey, Willie, we got a great spot for you right beside Crosby on his first line.
Yeah.
It just opened up because we sent both of his wingers home. So I would love that for him.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely.
All right. Our last and favorite topic of the podcast, our writing on the wall pick. I'm looking at Saturday, December 6th. And the first game on the board is Avs Rangers. The Avs only lost 1 game in regulation this year.
Yeah. How good are they?
Oh my God.
How
Stop
good
it.
are they?
I don't.
And the Rangers can't win on home ice, so there's guaranteed money for you.
Little tip from your betting advisors here. Jenks, what is your writing on the wall pick?
I love when we pick these days that have so many games because there's a lot of them that I'm really interested in watching. Man, I don't know. So we talked about them last time, and they've won a couple of games since we talked about the Leafs. They've also lost a couple of games that you probably could argue they should have had, and I just don't feel any better about them.
Yeah.
And I know the Canadians have been having their struggles too, but they're another team that seems to be trending in the right direction. I mean, currently not in the playoff picture, but guys like Suzuki, guys like Caulfield, guys like Lane Hudson, Demidov, Slafkovsky. I mean, all these guys who are 25 or under and are just starting to figure it out and are getting on the score sheet regularly. So I know it's in Toronto. The Toronto crowd sucks because it's all corporate people because you can't afford a ticket.
Right.
Give me Montreal Canadiens over the Leafs on Saturday night in Toronto.
Wow. That's
I
Battle of Canada up there.
I want it. Yep.
Okay. I can get behind it. I'm looking at these games, looking through who's playing well. We talked about a lot of trending teams. The Panthers are in last place in the Eastern Conference. Okay. Now, are they going to stay there? I don't think so. But you can't say they're playing good. And I think a team that's trying to prove their worth in the NHL is the Columbus Blue Jackets. Now, Columbus Blue Jackets might be the worst team to ever exist outside of Buffalo, but they are playing better than the Panthers. So I think a lot of money is going to be coming on the Panthers, and the Blue Jackets are going to come out. Werenski's going to pot two Genos, and I think that's it. I think it's going to be 2-0 Columbus. Don't bet that. Just bet Columbus.
2-0 Columbus.
The Florida Panthers. Bet responsibly, of course.
Wow. Okay.
I mean, the Panthers suck right now. They suck bad.
They are struggling. I like that pick. It's an aggressive pick. I can definitely see it happening.
You got to take your spots. When it's free money.
I don't know that I'm betting the shutout, but I can get behind Columbus beating them.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, your freaking Maple Leafs beat them. It's hard to.
My Maple Leafs, I freaking hate the Maple Leafs. Oh my god, come at me, late Maple Leaf fans.
God, I freaking. If Toronto, do you think we'll see a Toronto Cup or a Buffalo Cup before we die?
Neither one. Neither one's going to happen.
Okay.
Toronto can't get out of the first round, and Buffalo can't make the playoffs. So
fair.
Mathematically, neither one wins a cup before I die.
No, that's totally fair. I'm on board with you. All right, guys, make sure to follow us on Spotify, YouTube, and Instagram at Black Aces Hockey Podcast. And I'm your co-host, Blaine Abs. I'm right here as always with your co-host, Nick Jenkins. We're out of here.